Hey, peace and blessings, everybody. It's your brother Asari back with yet another one. Um, hey, if you're liking what you've been hearing, like and subscribe, hit the notification button. We drop new little pieces on various different things. You'll be notified. Um, in this video, we're gonna continue on our discussion about the ether. This will be the fourth part of the series. In this discourse on the ether, we kind of been I don't know, kind of sticking close to 19th century electrical theory, um, pre-electron, pre-J.J. Thomson inventing the electron, pre-Einstein's general relativity becoming the mainstream accepted theory and stuff like that. And we've been kind of dealing with electrical engineers and people who actually invented things and have patents or whatever. Nikola Tesla probably being the more famous of the people we've discussed or what have you. All of these people dealing with the ether as the foundation of energy. And as we kind of explored it a little bit, a lot of the other things that we've talked about outside of, let's say, the more scientific material, it's dealt with similar concepts that such as your sympathetic oscillation. Tesla says that the transfer of any communication is done via resonance or what have you. Well, we in previous videos when we are talking about a lot of the experiential material, we were talking about a feedback loop from the observer through his environment and back and stuff like that. So or how you feel about other people is a reflection of how you feel about yourself or whatever. From a scientific jargon perspective, that sounds a lot like resonance. You see what I'm saying? So we've been kind of getting into all that type of stuff like that. And I say, like, on the last video, we kind of been flexing the AI. In the last video I asked the AI, what I'm saying, like how we talked about, from Tesla's version, Tesla's more etheric version of his physics or whatever ever have you. Um, Certain particles like electrons and hadrons and quarks and gluons and all that stuff like that are accepted in Einstein's version of physics that don't exist in his version of physics. So the last video we were talking about, okay, you got the Large Hadron Collider, where in the conventional version of physics, you're talking about you're banging particles together or whatever. But okay, if this guy don't believe in those particles that you banging, what are you really doing? So that was kind of something we talked about on the previous video and everything like that. So basically, the conclusion to come to, a lot of the stuff that we've been speaking about, it's more in line with this particular model, more in line with Keely's sympathetic oscillation, more in line with Tesla's um, etheric variation of physics and everything like that, his theories and stuff like that. The stuff we've been talking about, the interconnectedness of bodies, morphogenic fields, things, all that stuff like that, on down to the experiential stuff. It's more akin and more lined up with Tesla's version or whatever. So in keeping with that, we're gonna keep pressing, and in this video we're gonna talk about another individual who did some interesting work on earth energies, and basically what a lot of us would call ley lines or what have you, but basically points on the planet that have certain levels of energetic stress or whatever that potentially induce certain illnesses in people or what have you. So that's Ernest Hartmann in geobiology. We're going to go into that, but we're going to filter it through this etheric physics that we kind of ran across through Tesla. Now I asked the AI to you know filter Ernest Hartmann's geobiology, or give us a perspective of Ernest Hartmann's geobiology from the perspective of etheric physics or what have you. So that is me once again asking the AI something. So we're gonna get into all that or what have you. Now, whenever I it's for the benefit of anybody who kind of wants to duplicate any of this. Whenever I ask about how Tesla might view something or whatever case may be, or I ask the AI something about this, because the AI is only as smart as the programming or the information it has access to. So it's never been a time where I didn't have to kind of like give it the elements that I needed it to understand my thinking or whatever the case may be. So when I try to understand Nikola Tesla's perspective, I always include the research and work of Eric Dollard because that's the um, most knowledgeable living person that's probably done his experiments. So, I'll ask about Nikola Tesla's um, perspective, but I'll also add, okay, Nikola Tesla and Eric Dollar's perspective because he fills in a lot of the blanks. Same thing with John Keely. If you look up John Keely by himself, they're gonna flood you with the whole thing about he's a charlatan, he's pseudoscience, he this, that, and the third. But if you look up John Keely and as in conjunction with the work of Dale Pond, no, he's no longer a pseudoscientist anymore because Dale Pond fills in the gaps. Dale Pond um, fills in the missing pieces of the misinterpretation of what Keely was trying to say, or whatever the case may be. So just FYI, if you looking this stuff up or trying to do some of this same stuff or whatever with AI. So let me see here. We're gonna get into the response that I got, right? So this is how it goes. Interpreting Earth's energetic grids, a synthesis of Keely Pond and Tesla Dollard perspectives on Ernest Hartmann's geobiology. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of skip around a little bit, but this might get a little wordy and a little nerdy. But at the end of the day, it's an interesting conversation. I'm gonna be interjecting here and there, but we're gonna get into it. Okay, introduction. The unseen energies of Earth. The Earth, far from being a static geological entity, is often conceptualized by various alternative scientific traditions. What you talking about? The ether, this ether physics that we talking about of Tesla and um, Keely. Okay, so let's see. Is often conceptualized by various alternative scientific traditions as a dynamic system permeated by unseen energies. Okay. Um, and that's for all my people. I only believe what I can see. Okay, I get it. When you that separates when you have a method, you have access to more than what you can see. That just FYI, not to go on a long rant about that. Okay, so Ernest Hartmann's geobiology, while frequently categorized as pseudoscience, the AI gonna throw a jab in there every now and then, offers a framework for understanding these purported energetic patterns. All right. Hartmann's research posits the existence of invisible Earth radiation patterns, most notably Hartmann lines and Curry lines. Remember, we said it's akin to what we understand like ley lines to be, akin to, similar to latitude and longitude lines, but it's more energetic in nature or what have you, as opposed to coordinates. So to speak. Okay, so most notably Hartmann lines and Curry lines, which are claimed to exert a negative influence on health and the vitality of a biological life, a phenomenon collectively termed geopathic stress, right? Um, is similar to how we talk about in self to others holes in the energy. You see what I'm saying? Similar concept. Proponents of geobiology assert that these radiations can arise from natural geological features such as groundwater friction against mineral deposits and geological faults, as well as from human-made infrastructure like power lines. Detection of these alleged energy lines typically involve unconventional methods, including dowsing rods, pendulums, or even direct hand perception or what have you. So they're talking about our man-made infrastructure because, as we know, certain elements, you see what I'm saying, like copper and iron and even organic elements or insulators and everything like that. So you have different physical materials have different properties. So the things that buildings are made of, this what he's saying is this affects us in ways or what have you. Okay, because we're energetic beings as we've been talking about. Remember, we talked about in previous videos how they're moving from a biochemical model of medicine into a more energetic, electrical type model of medicine and everything like that with some of these alternative therapies and stuff like that. So let's see. Detection of these alleged energy lines typically involves unconventional methods, including dowsing rods, pendulums, what have you. Okay, to further explore the conceptual landscape surrounding Earth's subtle energies, this report introduces the unconventional frameworks developed by John Keely and his modern interpreter Dale Pond. Remember, I said I always put them together alongside the pioneering work of Nikola Tesla and his contemporary proponent Eric Dollard. I always put them together. John Keely, a 19th century American inventor, claimed to have discovered a novel motive power rooted in vibratory sympathy, which he described as vaporic or etheric force. Okay, talking about Keely. His theories, though later largely dismissed as fraudulent, hey, I gotta throw a jab in there, okay, because the AI is gonna respond to the mainstream thought process. You gotta kind of like steer this thing how y'all know what I mean. Posited that musical vibrations could resonate with atoms and the ether to unleash immense energy. Dale Pond has dedicated a significant portion of his career to interpreting, elucidating Keely's sympathetic vibratory physics (SVP), presenting it as unifying science where the principle of vibration underpins all phenomena. Parallel to Keely's explorations, Nikola Tesla, a visionary electrical engineer, pursued radical concepts including wireless power transmission and a comprehensive theory of the ether. So for us, this is more of a recap. You see what I'm saying? That's kind of why I'm reading a little bit fast, because this is a recap. If you um saw the other videos in the series, we talked about similar things. Everybody should know who Nikola Tesla is by now. Everybody should know who John Keely is by now if you kind of been following this series. Okay, so let's see. Eric Dollard, an electrical engineer and researcher, stands as a proponent interpreter of Tesla's work. Dollard emphasizes Tesla's discovery of longitudinal dielectric waveforms, often referred to as scalar waves, and challenges conventional electrical theory, particularly the accepted role of conductors in electricity transmission. So we're gonna get into that later on down in the paper and stuff like that. When they saying I know the term dielectric comes up a lot. Um, Another word for dielectric is electrostatic, like the you know what I'm saying, on your TV when you're not getting any channel or whatever, you trying to tune into a channel back in the day that you didn't pay for, and you get that little staticky thing or whatever case may be, the electrostatic. That's another word for dielectric. Let me see here. Uh, the purpose of this report is to explore how these alternative paradigms, each deeply rooted in the concept of the ether vibration and resonance, might interpret Hartmann's observations regarding Earth's energetic grids and the phenomena of geopathic stress. By examining these unique conceptual lenses, this analysis aims to highlight their commonalities, distinctions, and potential implications of understanding the subtle energetic environment of our planet. Right? Okay, so Ernest Hartmann's Geobiology, the foundation, right? Ernest Hartmann's Geobiology provides a detailed, albeit controversial, mapping of Earth's purported energetic landscape. At its core are the descriptions of distinct grid patterns and their claimed effects on biological systems. Detailed descriptions of Hartmann and Curry grids. Dr. Ernest Hartmann describes a global network of radiation known as Hartmann lines. A global network of radiation known as Hartmann lines. And we're gonna see how this changes. Remember, we're gonna view it through the lens of Tesla and Keely, but for now, we're this is how Ernest Hartmann presents it. Okay, which are said to rise vertically from the ground like invisible walls. These lines form a consistent grid pattern. The north-south lines are approximately 25 centimeters wide and appear at regular intervals of 2 meters. The east-west lines are about 15 centimeters wide and are encountered every 2.5 meters, though some accounts suggest these intervals can range from 2.3 meters to 2.5 meters or even vary from 1.2 meters to 2.06 meters depending on latitude. Okay, it's an interesting thing. Depends on the latitude. We're gonna get into that because we're gonna get into how the planet, um, how we talk about fields or whatever the case may be. The planet has its own energetic makeup and everything like that. It's not just a big rock that we live on or whatever case may be. It's a living thing or whatever with um, its own energetic fluctuations and everything like that. So this is going to kind of paint a different picture of the way we view the earth as well. Let's see here. Uh, a particularly significant feature within the geobiological framework is the Hartmann knot. These are geopathogenic points formed at the intersection of Hartmann lines, or where Hartmann and Curry lines cross. These intersections are considered especially hazardous, with their negative impact greatly amplified when they coincide with other disturbances such as underground water streams, which are often referred to as Sha streams or black streams. Such convergences are believed to create an extremely yin geopathic area, claimed health impacts, and geopathic stress. Dr. Hartmann was convinced that these energetic lines, particularly the knots, were responsible for serious diseases, including cancer, stating that he never found a cancer case unrelated to the grid. So he's basically relating um, the location of a person and the energetic quality of that person's location with their health as well, or saying that it can potentially have a influence on their health. So it's basically as if the frequency of these Hartmann knots or whatever case may be, or the frequency of the person's location or whatever is almost imposing its energy on the individual. So Dr. Hartmann was convinced that these energetic lines, particularly the knots, were responsible for serious illnesses, including cancer, stating that he never found a cancer case unrelated to the grid. Prolonged exposure to the distorted radiation of these knots is posited to lead to specific illnesses, with the location of the illness in the body corresponding to the part of the body exposed for extended periods. Geopathic stress is broadly defined as a phenomenon where subterranean running water and earth grids negatively influence the health of nearby inhabitants. So even the streams of water, we know water is a conductor, and water has a lot of different properties and everything like that. The water running along certain mineral deposits or whatever affect the energy. It's funny because all that stuff they've been finding up under the Great Pyramid and actually the three pyramids or whatever case may be in Giza and stuff like that. They were talking about how it's water that runs up under there or whatever case may be, and they were talking about something very similar to what they're breaking down here about how when water runs across certain stones or whatever, it has some sort of electrical effect or something of that nature, or energetic effect, or what have you. Okay, so geopathic stress is broadly defined as a phenomenon where subterranean running water and earth grids negatively influence the health of nearby inhabitants. It describes negative energies or harmful earth rays emanating from the earth that cause discomfort and ill health. Reported symptoms attributed to geopathic stress are diverse, encompassing insomnia, depression, migraine type headaches, nervous disturbances, cramps, and rheumatic illnesses. It is also claimed to weaken the immune system, increasing susceptibility to viruses, bacteria, parasites, environmental pollution, and degenerative diseases. The intensity of these lines is reported to increase 3 or 4-fold at night. A phenomenon attributed to fewer free ions in the atmosphere, drawing an analogy to improved radio wave reception during nighttime hours. Biological indicators are also noted, with animals believed to be sensitive to these energies. Cats, for instance, are said to frequently sleep on negative places, while dogs may howl and birds flutter madly in the cages before an earthquake. Yeah, because he relates some of these pressures with um, disturbances, weather patterns, and things of that nature. Let's see here. Uh, People may also report feeling sick or needing to sleep during such periods. Dowsers often use the Von Pole scale, ranging from 0 to 16, to measure the strength of geopathic stress. So he's talking about stress points, energetic stress points on the planet, or whatever case may be. Now, as like I said, the AI is going to try to call this pseudoscience or whatever case may be, but as we're going to see when we start getting into Tesla and Keely and stuff like that, and what they have to say, what Dale Pond talks about, what Eric Dollard talks about, it's going to kind of validate what he's saying. You see what I'm saying? Let's see here. On the scale of 0 represents the healthy 7.82 hertz Schumann frequency, while 16 corresponds to an extremely strong locus vibrating at 250 hertz, where prolonged exposure is associated with severe illness such as cancer. Let's see. Proposed mechanisms by Hartmann's proponents. The underlying mechanisms proposed by Hartmann's observation are buried. The core assertion is the existence of distinct patterns of Earth radiation, right? Distinct patterns of Earth radiation. Natural geological disturbances are implicated. The groundwater friction against mineral deposits and geological faults due to claimed differences in electrical charge, believed to generate radiation. You see what I'm saying? Uh, Human infrastructure, including overhead and underground power lines, telecommunication infrastructure, is also considered a source of disturbance. So basically, he's talking about all the things that we have. Some of this stuff isn't even really, um, I don't know, as I don't know, big on emitting frequencies. Some of this stuff may be like, I don't know, regular infrastructure, pipes made out of certain materials and stuff like that, or just water running through, past certain mineral deposits or whatever case may be. That's real innocent. Then as you scale it up to um, towers and antennas and stuff like that, and all the electromagnetic stuff that we got going on. You can only imagine, you can kind of get a picture for what this may be in our modern time. Probably back when he first came up with this, it probably wasn't as much of that going on. A broader conceptualization suggests that both Curry and Hartmann lines function as Earth's grids of cosmic rays that can be distorted by other energies, such as those emanating from geological faults. So he's basically saying these are Earth's cosmic rays. A significant proposed mechanism involves the distortion of the Schumann resonance, the Earth's natural electromagnetic field that oscillates at an average frequency of 7.83 hertz, which is notably similar to human alpha brainwaves. Geopathic stress is seen as a distortion of the natural frequency caused by alteration of electromagnetic fields, originally from underground water streams, geological fault lines, caverns, and mineral deposits. Okay, let's see here. Dr. Hartmann's theory also posits that the Earth behaves like a negative armature of a colossal capacitor. So, okay, so he's saying that the Earth behaves like a colossal capacitor. You see, a capacitor is like a temporary battery. It stores energy and stuff like that. This is the same idea that Tesla was talking about when he came up with Wardenclyffe. He was going to pump energy into the Earth and then and bounce it back at particular points on the planet or whatever to super oversimplify that experiment or what have you. Um, let's see. Negative armature of colossal capacitor with the universe serving as its positive pole, thereby creating an electrical field ranging from 100 to 150 volts above its ground. Uh, this uh, this electrical potential is said to vary seasonally, reaching its maximum in summer. So we're gonna also contrast this with astrocartography. Toward the end of this, we're gonna also contrast with this with astrocartography, because that's a thing. That's a thing in astrology for all my people who saying astrology is pseudo. That's a thing. What exactly what they just said or whatever the case may be. At different seasons, at different times of the year, the energy changes and the energy is higher. Like any astrologer will tell you that the sun's home is in Leo. The sun lives in Leo. So in the summertime, it's hot. The energy is high in the summertime. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, certain things. What The fifth house is like 8 o'clock. A lot of stuff happens at 8 o'clock. A lot of um when in Um, a lot of important things start at 8 o'clock. Important television shows, all kind of stuff like that happen around that time or whatever case may be, like 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever case may be. That's like the 12th house. That's kind of chaotic and all that stuff like that. People getting ready for work and all that. So times of day do reflect different energy. And I know a lot of people be like, they can't relate to, they may not be able to relate to that example, but astrology would be able to relate to it because a person who observes, kind of like observes cycles or what have you. But moving right along, Dr. Hartmann's theory also posits that the Earth behaves like a capacitor. Okay, we talked about that. Let's see. It talks about method of detection. It talks about um, the dowsing rods and all that. Let's see. Let's see. This systematic attempt to map and categorize unseen forces is a key characteristic that makes Hartmann's research a suitable subject for interpretation by other unconventional theories. This mapping effort, whether scientifically validated or not, represents an attempt. They keep throwing jabs. The AI keep throwing jabs. This mapping effort, whether scientifically validated or not, represents an attempt to systematize and understand the invisible energetic landscape of the Earth, providing a concrete, if controversial, set of phenomena for Keely Pond Tesla dollar framework to interpret. It implicitly suggests that the Earth is not merely a geological mass, but an active energetic entity influencing its inhabitants. Okay, Hartmann's research explicitly links geopathic stress to subterranean water. Okay, we talked about that at length. Okay, so we're gonna keep moving along. Okay, the Keely Pond interpretation, sympathetic vibration. Now watch how this kind of changes up a little bit, or it starts to sound a little bit different. Okay, so this is the Keely Pond. This is dealing with sympathetic. Now this is gonna be filtering that geobiology through um, Keely's sympathetic oscillation. You see what I'm saying? Okay, or sympathetic vibratory physics, what he calls it. Okay, uh, the framework of sympathetic vibratory physics, championed by John Keely and elaborated upon by Dale Pond, offers a unique lens through which to interpret Ernest Hartmann's geobiology. At its core, sympathetic vibratory physics posits a universe governed by vibrational principles where all phenomena are interconnected through resonance. All phenomena are interconnected through resonance. So remember when we say so from a general relativity perspective, when I say, hey man, how you feel about other people, that's a reflection of how you feel about yourself. So that sounds real weird from a general relativity perspective. That almost has no place in it. But when you get into Keely's stuff or whatever, he says that all phenomena are interconnected through resonance. So when I talk about a feedback loop from the observer, it don't sound so foreign from this perspective, from this etheric version of physics. Okay, so core principles of sympathetic vibratory physics. John Keely, a figure of significant historical intrigue, claimed to have discovered a new mode of power rooted in vibratory sympathy, which he initially referred to as vaporic or etheric force. He asserted the ability to liberate an interatomic ether from water and air through specific vibrations, describing this ether as possessing boundless energy and being significantly lighter than hydrogen gas. Keely believed this ether vibrated around molecules, exhibiting a magnet-like force that caused it to adhere to matter through vibratory rotation. He posits that musical vibrations could resonate with atoms and the ether, unlocking immense energy, while later investigation concluded that Keely's machines were powered by conventional means, such as compressed air. His theoretical constructs laid the foundational ideas for sympathetic vibratory physics. Yeah, he I think Dale Pond wrote about that. He, like, let's say like his inventions might have been some of his inventions might have been powered by water or whatever the case may be, and he might have had a whole engine that might have run off of water and that can generate so many psi or so much pressure or power or whatever the case may be. But what Dale Pond was saying is that they couldn't figure out how it worked because they were looking for an explosive force. He harnessed energy or made the engine work off of cavitation or implosion. You see what I'm saying? Within the water and stuff like that. So his ideas were a little bit different. Okay, so Dale Pond dedicated research and interpreter Keely's work has significantly advanced the understanding of sympathetic vibratory physics. Pond posits the vibration oscillation is the principle underlying all things and serves as an essential link between spirit activated mind and matter. He views this universal vibration as the magic key for creating new experiences, worlds, and universes. Okay, Pond frames sympathetic vibratory physics in terms of applied quantum acoustics, right? Um, extending the concept of vibration beyond the audible spectrum to encompass radio frequencies, light frequencies, gamma ray frequencies, and even the realm of mind and the entire universe. He asserts that all these levels operate on sympathetic vibration, meaning that systems resonate with and influence each other when their inherent frequencies align. Now, we always talk about alignment in a lot of this material, from self to self and others to self. We always talk about alignment, similar thing. Okay, Pond's publications, including Universal Laws Never Before Revealed, Keely's Secrets, we read out of that book, I think, in the first installment of this series, aim to explain this technology and its potential for new energy sources, right? A profound aspect of Pond's interpretation is the concept of universal love as the fundamental glue that binds the universe together. I think we talked about that too. It's a video we got about love and fear. We talked about that, toward and away from. Okay, let's see here. From this let's see here, binds the universe together, representing you. Okay, from this perspective, sickness, trauma, and misfortune are understood to occur when individuals are not in the same vibration with the God vibration, suggesting that health and well-being are states of sympathetic resonance or vibrational coherence with this fundamental universal frequency. This implies a karmic feedback loop where thoughts and expressions manifest as returning vibrations. So he's even karma is built into his concept. Keely's theories and by extension Dale Pond's interpretations represent significant departure from mainstream physics. Okay, Keely's work has been seen by some supporters as a rebuke of the laws of thermodynamics and a symbol of a more sympathetic physics that integrated hard science with emotion and love. Pond's work reveals universal laws and new sources of energy based on these vibratory principles, often challenging established scientific paradigms. So, applying sympathetic vibratory physics to geobiology. Okay, so after all that, we finally got to to something close, something like the punchline. We got a little bit more to go, but something like the punchline on some of this. Okay, so applying sympathetic vibratory physics to geobiology. From a Keely Pond perspective, Hartmann lines and Curry lines would be understood as standing wave patterns or interference patterns within the Earth's pervasive inner atomic ether. So basically, what he's almost treating the Earth as if it's these guys don't really deal with particles like that, but yeah, I think Keely probably may have dealt with particles a little bit more than Tesla did. But yeah, um, interatomic ether. These patterns are not merely static lines, but dynamic manifestations of the Earth's inherent vibratory state. The regular interval, um, 2 meters to 2.5 meters, described for Hartmann lines would represent specific resonance frequencies or harmonics of the etheric medium, akin to musical notes or chords, forming a complex earth energy grid. Okay, so he's talking about, he's relating the Hartmann lines and Curry lines of geobiology, he's relating those to harmonic frequencies within the planet. You see what I'm saying? Okay, let's see here. Okay, geopathic stress in this view. Okay, so this is geopathic stress, what we call, what could be likened unto what we've been calling holes in the energy in self to others. Okay, geopathic stress in this view would be interpreted as a state of vibratory disharmony. Okay, vibratory disharmony or dissonance within the Earth's energetic field. You see what I'm saying? So these points that they talking about, or whatever the case may be, these stress points that he's talking about, or whatever, or that Ernest Hartmann was talking about, or whatever. These are Keely and Pond would kind of interpret those as vibratory disharmony or dissonance. Okay, the friction of water against mineral deposits. Okay, the friction of water against mineral deposits or geological faults would not simply create radiation, but would generate chaotic or discordant vibrations that disrupt the natural harmonious oscillations of the Earth's ether, right? These localized distortions would then create unbalanced or mucky lines, as described by the Von Pale scale, that are out of sympathetic resonance with the healthy biological systems, right? This interpretation aligns with Pond's assertion that illness arises from a lack of vibratory alignment, right? Okay, so see how one guy is considered more pseudo, but you see how as we get into this and we kind of contrast sympathetic vibratory physics, you see how they kind of saying that they're saying a lot of the same stuff, or they have a lot of it's more similar than different. Okay, so they would create let's see here. If the crossing vibrations are out of phase or in disharmony with biological life, they would create amplified dissonant fields, leading to the reported negative um, effects. So let's read that again. If the crossing vibrations are out of phase or in disharmony with biological life, a person. This is how in geobiology, he was talking about the place that the person is in, the energy and the infrastructure of the place that the person is in can be the cause of their cancer, is what he's saying, or can contribute to it anyway, or whatever the case may be. So if the crossing vibration are out of phase or disharmony with biological life, they will create amplified dissonant fields, leading to the reported negative health effects. This aligns with Pond's assertion that sickness, trauma, happened because we are at that moment not in the same vibration with the God vibration, where the God vibration could be analogous to the Earth's natural harmonious etheric resonance. Okay, the concept here is that the disharmonious vibrations generated by geological anomalies are the underlying cause and the imposition of this dissonance on biological systems, leading to a loss of their own sympathetic vibratory coherence. Wow. So basically, a person can be in a proper alignment and they can go to a place that's so out of sync with them, or whatever case may be, that it can cause them to get sick. So that's basically what he's saying. Interesting. The concept here is the disharmonious. I mean, it's the same thing that Ernest Hartmann said as far as the Curry lines and the Hartmann lines, or whatever case may be, but he's just relating it um, I don't know, from a perspective of frequency and vibration. So it hits a little bit different, as it were. Okay, so the concept here is that the disharmonious vibrations generated by geologic. Okay, we read that. Okay, this provides a specific vibratory mechanism for the observed health impacts. The using of dowsing rods, pendulums, or hands to detect these lines would be explained as a form of sympathetic attunement, right? To the dowser through their own subtle energetic field, perhaps influenced by their chakras, or enters into sympathetic resonance with the earth's etheric vibration, allowing them to perceive the subtle shifts and patterns that constitute the Hartmann grid. So basically, he's talking about a person who uses a dowsing rod, period, or whatever case may be. So basically, he's in this is saying that a person can attune themselves to be sensitive to energy, or whatever case may be, a person. So this validates a lot of that, or whatever case may be. How he says sympathetic attunement. You're attuning yourselves to certain frequencies. I think in a previous video, we were talking about that. If you work outside long enough, or whatever case may be, you can just see where the sun is and you know what time it is. You just know what time it is. You see what I'm saying? So sympathetic attunement in various different ways. You're around a person long enough, you start to pick up their habits and all that stuff like that. It happens on that level as well. So this is something that we see in everyday life. Okay, I know if a person says they use a dowsing rod, somebody gonna pop out the woodwork and call them pseudo. But as you can see, according to a particular um version of physics, that ain't pseudo. That's very doable. Okay, so the observation that these lines are emotionally sensitive to prayer, singing, human circles, bell ringing, directly supports Pond's broader idea of human consciousness, intention, and sound influence and vibration within the universal sympathetic system. So all of that all of your spiritual practices or whatever case may be has a frequency of its own. And what he's basically saying is that that influences the earth's frequency. So the singing, the om, the human circles, the bell ringing, all that stuff like that, um, um, that influences the earth's field itself. So when you read about a lot of the, um, you know, I don't know, the Tartarian type stuff people talk about or whatever the case may be, they talk about, stuff like that in a lot of the old cathedrals and stuff like that. I mean, that's a whole loaded thing. Um, let's see, the dynamic properties of the grid, such as its distortion during earthquakes and subsequent restoration, will be interpreted as the Earth's etheric field undergoing massive vibratory shock and then self-organizing back into its natural resonant pattern. So that's funny he says this. So that's interesting when we filter things through this more etheric version of physics, because listen to how what that sounds like. The dynamic properties of the grid, such as its distortion during the earthquakes and subsequent restoration, would be interpreted as the Earth's etheric field undergoing massive vibratory shock and then self-organizing back into its natural resonant pattern. If you go back into the previous video that we just did about CERN, and we talk about from this perspective, from a perspective of etheric physics, they're just causing very chaotic perturbations or disturbances within the ether. You see what I'm saying? That as opposed to it smashing atoms together, you just basically opening portals, ripping things apart, forcing it to heal itself. Basically, what it's describing here, and basically what we're seeing here, what effect does that have on the planet? Because it's not only affecting us and things we perceive or whatever case may be, it's also having an effect on the planet. Adverse weather, according to this, is an effect of um let's see here, vibratory shock. um as far as the Earth's field is concerned. It experiences this shock, and the adverse weather is its attempt to try to heal itself and correct itself. Basically, what we getting from this. Okay, the increased intensity at night could relate to change in atmospheric vibrational conditions or the absence of daytime noise, allowing subtle Earth frequencies to become more pronounced. Okay, the sensitivity of animals would be attributed to their innate capacity for sympathetic resonance. Animals are more sensitive to these frequencies than us. Basically, what he's saying. That's why they respond to earthquakes when the earthquakes are about to happen. When these disasters are about to happen, is because they can feel this stuff. They can feel the energy in the planet a lot better than we can. So that's why he's saying that animals respond more to oh, it's about to be an earthquake, all the birds left, all this stuff like that or whatever. Because what he's saying is that when earthquakes and things happen or whatever case may be, it's not just a thing where it's just happening or whatever. It's a shift in the energy of the planet or whatever. So the bird don't know the tectonic plates is shifting or whatever case may be, but it's something more subtle that the bird can sense, or the cat can sense, or the dog can sense, that it's something coming from the planet that they can sense. Basically what they saying. Okay, so let's see here. The sensitivity of animals, let's see. Okay, acting as natural indicators of vibratory harmony or disharmony. Dale Pond is known for his work with musical dynospheres, which are devices based on Keely's principles of sympathetic vibratory physics and are described as scalar developers. Nikola Tesla dealt with scalar waves. Another a synonym for scalar waves would be longitudinal waves and stuff like that, that demonstrate how vibration oscillation is the principle underlying all things. If the earth itself possesses multiple energy grids and its energies can be influenced by cosmic rays and exhibit dynamic patterns like geospirals, upwellings, and vortices, downwellings. Because when we dealing with the etheric physics and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff they're dealing with, it's more like charge, discharge, centrifugal. You see what I'm saying? The dielectric or electrostatic is more of a neutral type thing. Like how you said, it's it under stress, but it's not discharging or charging or nothing like that. It's just under stress in somewhat of a neutral state or whatever case may be. So you get kind of language like that when you're getting into this. So it's less particles and all that stuff like that. Let's see here. It's internal geological processes. Excuse me. Okay. Hold on. Let me start up. If the Earth itself possesses multiple energy grids and its energies can be influenced by cosmic rays and exhibit dynamic patterns like geospirals, upwellings, and vortices, downwellings, then from a Keely pond perspective, the Earth could be conceptualized as a massive, naturally occurring dinosphere. um, its internal geological processes, water flow. It's a reason. It's a reason why I said sphere like that. I'm being facetious in a way, but that's just me. But uh, because I didn't say in the a naturally occurring endless flat plane. I'm just poking fun at y'all, man. I ain't trying to start nothing. Dinosphere, inner, its internal geological processes, water flow, faults, and external cosmic influences would generate complex vibratory patterns, some harmonious like the natural Schumann resonance, and some dissonant geopathic stress. Okay, so let's read that again. Um, let's see, its internal geological processes, water flow, faults, and external cosmic influences would generate complex vibratory patterns, some harmonious like the natural Schumann resonance, and some discordant, dissonant, um, like geopathic stress. Don't that sounds a lot like an astrology chart looks, because you have all kind of different transits happening simultaneously, which is a web of different energy or whatever going on at the same time. So the specific geospirals and vortices could be seen as particular energetic nodes within the macro dinosphere, where etheric energy is being modulated, transformed, or exchanged, akin to the operation of Keely's smaller devices. Um, this interpretation elevates Earth from a passive geological body to an active, self-organizing vibratory system. It implies that understanding and potentially interacting with Earth's dinosphere could be achieved through vibratory means, potentially leading to new forms of energy and healing that align with the planet's natural rhythms, echoing Keely's original claims of harnessing um, boundless energy. Okay, so we're gonna move on. That's the Keely perspective. We contrasted Keely's perspective with um, geobiology. And as we can see, that was quite interesting as far as the sympathetic oscillation, kind of filtering that through that version of ether physics or whatever. So let's see how Tesla and Dollard, according to the AI, how they would view that. Um, in Nikola Tesla's iteration of ether physics. Um, and again, if if I can't guarantee you, if I dug up Nikola Tesla and interviewed him, he would say these exact things. Same thing with John Keely, but at the same time, this is the AI speaking's collection of a lot of their research and things that they put out or whatever case may be. So if this is not if this is not what they would say, it's something closer in the direction of what they would say. We're just trying to make the contrast, and I think we're doing a decent job of making the contrast, because we can clearly see how speaking about this from a perspective of some of these more etheric physics, how a lot of stuff opens up. A lot of stuff opens up that was once considered pseudo, but it opens up when we start talking about it from a different uh, version of physics. So let's keep going. Um, the Tesla Dollard interpretation, ether, resonance, and Earth's electrical dynamics. So Tesla's gonna get more into electricity. He's gonna view it more from an electrical perspective, whereas Keely viewed it more from a vibrational perspective. Tesla still deals with resonance and sympathetic vibration, but he kind of his is more electrical in nature. So let's get into that. Tesla Dollard interpretation, ether, resonance, and Earth's electrical dynamics. Conceptual framework developed by Nikola Tesla and elaborated by Eric Dollard proves a distant, electrically focused interpretation of Hartmann's geobiology, rooted in the properties of the ether and planetary resonance. Core principles of Tesla Dollard physics. Nikola Tesla fundamentally posited that the universe contains infinite energy and that the ether serves as its eternal recipient and transformer. He believed that the electrical and magnetic phenomena are attributable to to this ether, with static electricity being effects of the ether under strain, like how we talking about dielectricity, and dynamic electricity and electromagnetism being effects of the ether in motion. Tesla considered electricity to be ether associated with matter, or bound ether, where molecules spin, carrying this ether and creating ether tensions, whose equalization leads to electrical currents and other electromagnetic effects. Eric Dollard, a proponent interpreter of Tesla's work, argues that Tesla discovered longitudinal dielectric waveforms, which Tesla himself termed electric rays of induction. Um, Dollard maintains that these are fundamentally distinct from conventional transverse electromagnetic Hertzian waves, which Tesla believes were useless for transmission of electric energy on an industrial scale due to their scattering nature. Dollard asserts that Tesla's true wireless power system relies on resonant actions along lines of, or rays of electric induction. These stand directly between transmitter and receiver, a concept employed in Tesla's magnifying transformer or whatever. So when what he's talking about with longitudinal waves, he's talking about something that's faster than what's perceived as the speed of light. So he's talking about something that's not really possible in Einsteinian general relativity, quantum mechanics, and stuff like that. This is kind of outside of that. Theirs is electromagnetic waves in the electromagnetic spectrum. When he's talking about longitudinal waves, that's something that's outside of the an idea that's outside of the traditional electromagnetic spectrum. Tesla was famously obsessed with resonance, demonstrating its power in both mechanical and electrical forms. He theorized that by injecting electric current into the earth at just the right frequency, he could harness the planet's own electrical charge and cause it to resonate, amplifying the standing waves that could be tapped anywhere globally. Dollard elaborates that on the TMT, Tesla magnifying transformer, as a system of resonant transformers harmonically balanced to the electric condition of the earth, established a virtual ground. Um, the yeah. We'll get into it. I was thinking I was making another correlation, but I don't want to bog it down. Virtual ground and creating three distinct coupled standing waves. Earth, inner transformer, resonant coil within the Earth's electrical system. A controversial aspect of Dollar's perspective is his fallacy of conductors, where he posits that electricity does not flow through the wire like little BBs. In conventional sense, but rather the space around the wire via the ether. Basically, he's saying it's a field that travels along the wire and everything like that. And I think he's not the only person to say that. I think Oliver Heaviside also said that. The inventor of the coaxial cable also said that. In this view, conductors serve primarily to reflect electromagnetic energy, while space, the ether, offers the least resistance to electromagnetic flow. This concept is central to his understanding of how Tesla's wireless power system operates. Dollar identifies Tesla's discovered waves as scalar waves, which he defines as longitudinal waves of potential. See how you have various different names for the same thing. Um, let's see, distinct from transverse waves. He suggests these waves are fundamental to natural energy processes and are implicated in phenomena like seismic events and solar activity. Dollard states that magnetic fields are conductive to transverse waves, while dielectric fields are conductive to longitudinal waves. Okay. Electromagnetic field. So electromagnetic fields are conductive to transverse waves. So remember how we were talking about how the Einstein theories and stuff like that, they're operating inside of the electromagnetic spectrum, while dielectric fields are conductive to um, longitudinal waves or scalar pressures or whatever case may be. That's not in the electromagnetic spectrum. You see what I'm saying? Okay, the Earth itself is known to have natural electric currents flowing on and beneath its surface, known as telluric currents. These currents arise from differences in electrical potentials caused by various factors, including very low frequency electromagnetic waves from space, the geomagnetic dynamo, and solar wind. Geophysicists utilize telluric currents to map subsurface structures like faults. Tesla's work on Earth conduction, like Wardenclyffe, that's what he's talking about. And resonance aligns with the concept of harnessing or interacting with the natural Earth currents. Okay, so that's kind of like a little bit of overview as far as Tesla and how he viewed certain things. Okay, applying Tesla dollar concepts to geobiology. Back to the punchline. Okay, from the Tesla dollar perspective, Hartmann lines and Curry lines would be interpreted as specific pathways or standing wave patterns of radiant electricity or longitudinal dielectric waves within the Earth's ether. Okay, these lines could represent natural telluric currents or specific resonant modes of the Earth's electric field, akin to how Tesla envisioned using the Earth to conduct signals. The regular the regular grid pattern would indicate a fundamental resonant electrical structure of the planet where Earth flows and accumulates according to etheric principles. Geopathic stress would be seen as a disruption or distortion. Okay, at first it was Keely viewed it as a disharmony or a dissonant frequency. Geopathic stress would be seen as a disruption or distortion of the natural etheric or telluric current flows. Underground water streams and geological faults would act as a obstructor in Dollard's sense of conductors or localized anomalies that interfere with the smooth propagation of these longitudinal waves, create areas of etheric stress. So basically resistance. So your let's see here, your geopathic stress areas from a Tesla perspective wouldn't necessarily manifest as disharmony. It would be more like resistance in an electrical circuit from the way it's described here. And again, this is the AI. So let's see here. Okay, yeah. Okay, geopathic stress would be seen as a disruption or distortion of the natural etheric or telluric currents. Underground water streams and geological faults would act as obstructors in Dollard's sense of conductors or localized anomalies that interfere with the smooth propagation of these longitudinal waves, creating areas of etheric stress. The claimed difference in electric charge of the masses on each side of the fault directly aligns with Tesla's understanding of ether tensions and electric currents as fundamental drivers of electrical phenomena. Hartmann knots where the lines cross and effects are intensified would be interpreted as points of strong electrical interference, where longitudinal waves constructively or destructively interact. These could be localized vortices or geospirals or etheric energy where the natural electric balance is severely disturbed, leading to detrimental effects on biological systems that are sensitive to these electric fields. Hmm. The increase in radon and gamma rays at the nodes could be a secondary effect of intense etheric activity or localized electrical discharge caused by disrupted fields. So he has a slightly different view on it. That's actually quite interesting. The negative health effects attributed to geopathic stress would be understood as a result of biological systems being forced into a state of electrical imbalance or dissonance by the distorted Earth energies. So it's similar how what we were talking about earlier. Um, the discordant frequency kind of forces them into resonance with it. So and by default, it diminishes their health. Um, Prolonged exposure to these specific unnatural earth frequencies could disrupt the body's subtle electrical processes, leading to weakened immune system. Or let's go back over that or whatever. Prolonged exposure to these specific unnatural earth frequencies could disrupt the body's subtle electrical processes, leading to a weakened immune system and disease. I think Dan Winters talks about that. He talks about think he was talking about how certain structures drain energy or drain electricity from you, whereas certain structures or whatever are kind of added to you. Like he's talking about biological or organic substances or whatever kind of maintain your electricity, whereas um, metallic structures, being inside of a metallic structure, kind of drains your energy. That's Dan Winters. He talks about that. Um, the depleted state of energy could be a direct consequence of the body attempting to compensate for the external electrical stressors drawing from its own vital energy sources. So chronic fatigue. So let's go over that. Negative health effects attributed to geopathic stress would be understood as the result of biological systems being forced into a state of electrical imbalance or dissonance by the distorted earth energies. Just as Tesla's vibrating platform caused physical discomfort, prolonged exposure to these specific unnatural earth frequencies could disrupt the body's subtle electrical processes, leading to weakened immune system and disease. The depleted state of energy could be a direct consequence of the body attempting to compensate for the external electrical stressors drawing from its own vital energy. Hmm. So even with that being said, or whatever the case may be, um, that leads us right back to that, like that same thing with CERN, because that has to affect the planet, and it has to affect the energetic grid on the planet. So that would have to cause these energies to be distorted anyway. So whatever they're doing in that one spot or whatever, it has to affect the planet, and by proxy it's affect that would affect all of us. You see what I'm saying? So while not explicitly discussed by Tesla or Dollard in the context of dowsing, the practice could be theoretically explained as an intuitive or bioelectrical sensitivity to localized variations in the Earth's etheric field or telluric currents. So so he's saying a person with a dowsing rod has developed a sensitivity to the currents of the earth, or whatever case may be, the electricity of the earth and everything like that. Similar to what John Keely and Dale Pond were talking about. Okay, the dowser's body acting as a sensitive antenna might detect changes in the electrical field E at any point around a distribution of charge or the presence of Dollar's etheric stress, similar to how Tesla himself has profound intuitive insights into electrical phenomena. Tesla's grand vision of a wireless power transmission was fundamentally predicated on using the Earth itself as a massive electrical conductor and resonator. He aimed to inject current at just the right frequency to cause the entire planet to resonate and amplify standing waves, effectively turning the Earth into a giant electrical pump. Dollard further elaborates on the describing of the Tesla magnifying transformer as harmonically balanced to the electric condition of the Earth and establishing coupled standing waves within the Earth's interior. Hartmann grids and their specific dimension and dynamic response to geological events fit seamlessly into the paradigm, suggesting that these are inherent, quantifiable electrical resonant patterns of the planet. So basically earlier the AI was trying to tell me that Hartmann was pseudo. But basically, now that when we filter it through Tesla's etheric physics and his whole approach or whatever the case may be, basically the same thing that Hartmann said, he coming from Tesla is no longer pseudo. You see what I'm saying? That's how this thing shows a level of favoritism. So Hartmann's grid, with their specific dimension and dynamic responses to geological events, fit seamlessly into a paradigm suggesting that these are inherent, quantifiable electrical resonant patterns. So now it's quantifiable. Now that it's electricity, you see what I'm saying? When he was originally, it was just unseen, unknowable energies or whatever case may be. Now that Tesla's dealing from his perspective with electricity, oh, it's quantifiable now. It's no longer unseen energies now. Okay, so let's see here. But for our purposes, this would tell us that on some level, these so-called unseen energies, on some level, they potentially manifest as electricity for the purpose if you wanted to measure this stuff or whatever case may be. Sometime some of these so-called unseen energies may be able to be measured through the lens of electricity. Let's see here. The concept of the earth as a capacitor, furtherly, the earth as a capacitor is just a battery, or a temporary battery. Um, the concept as of the earth as a capacitor further reinforces this view of earth as an active electrical component in a larger cosmic circuit. Yeah, because if anybody's familiar with how, Eric Dollar, he has a whole video where he goes into that. He talks about radio astronomy. He talks about how the sun is a harmonic, how the sun is basically operates as a transformer, and basically all your planets are basically harmonic filters that resonate at a certain frequency of a particular quality of energy that's coming out of the sun, basically. So he kind of goes into that. So he has a whole video on that. He that he can explain it better than I can. So the concept of let's see here, this perspective transformed the Earth from a passive geological body into an active dynamic electrical machine, constantly generating, transmitting, and interacting with energy through its internal and external fields. Geopathic stress then is not just a localized anomaly, but a symptom of disastrous, excuse me, disruptions within the planetary electrical system, potentially indicating areas where the Earth's natural resonant frequencies are being interfered with or are out of balance, leading to the breakdown of energy flow or coherence. So basically, another thing, another takeaway from all of this stuff or whatever, they're describing the planet as a coherent system all in itself, that's a part of a larger system or whatever case may be. So even a lot of the discord that takes place on the you know on the planet or whatever case may be, it has an effect on the larger system as well. Um, Let me see here. Uh, Okay, Eric Dollard makes a crucial distinction between transverse electromagnetic waves and which are called Hertzian waves, and longitudinal dielectric waveforms, Tesla's electric rays of induction or scalar waves. He explicitly states that the magnetic fields are conductive to transverse waves, while dielectric fields are conductive to. Okay, I think we passed all that. Mm. Okay, finally, both Keely Pond and Tesla Dollard framework represent significant departures from conventional physics, reflecting a common thread of reinterpretation of mainstream scientific paradigms. Keely's work was seen by his supporters as a rebuke of the laws of thermodynamics. Tesla famously discarded Hertzian waves in favor of his own theories of Earth conduction, and Dollard actively critiques modern scientific understanding of electricity, particularly the fallacy of conductors. These shared rejections highlight a fundamental dissatisfaction with prevailing scientific models. Da, 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 da. Let's see here. Okay, despite the commonalities, distinct nuances emerge in their interpretations. The primary distinction lies in the nature of the energy they emphasize. The Keely Pond framework lends toward a more acoustic or vibrational interpretation, focusing on sympathetic vibration, quantum acoustics, and the role of music in energy phenomena. In contrast, the Tesla Dollard perspective is more electrical and etheric, centering on concepts like radiant electricity, longitudinal dielectric waves, telluric currents, and the ether under strain in motion. I advise you look up some of these words or whatever case may be. You see what I'm saying? Some of them, I put it to you like this: even some of these words are kind of like, I gloss over the meaning or the explanation for some of these words and stuff like that, but um it's like a rabbit hole of language or whatever, because because for example, if you Google what a dielectric is, they're gonna tell you it's an insulator. But if you go back into um prior electrical theory, that's a whole thing. Dielectricity is a whole thing. The dielectric field is a whole thing. That's, counter space, what they call counter space, subspace, all that stuff like that. That borders into the dielectric field and stuff like that, or whatever case may be. So you see what I'm saying? So it's its own thing, or whatever case may be. Yeah. So the same with a lot of this stuff. It's its own thing or whatever case may be. When you kind of look it up and delve into it, a lot of this language is antiquated language by today's standards or whatever case may be. So you may not be able to just Google it on the internet and you really get a sufficient explanation for it. You may have to crack open some of these books or whatever case may be, or follow some of these people I'm mentioning for them to give you a better kind of breakdown of some of that stuff. That's why a lot of this stuff, I'm not going into great lengths to define a lot of these terms because it's a lot of twists and turns in it as well. So and we will be caught up in defining all the terms and stuff like that. So I'm kind of trying to flow as best as I can. I know it's dense language, it's jargon on top of jargon. I'm trying to flow through it and kind of like give you a little bit of breakdown or whatever. I know it's kind of dense in places, but I think if we can if you can kind of bear with me through some of the density of the material, we actually end up coming out with some interesting conclusions as we've been seeing throughout this discourse. So as we continue, the focus of practical application also diverges. Keely Pond's work, particularly through Dale Pond's interpretation, often emphasizes personal well-being, spiritual alignment, and potential of new energy via vibratory devices like dynospheres. That's one of Keely's inventions. Um, Tesla and Dollard, while recognizing broader implications, are more focused on a large scale wireless. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so let's see here, astrological perspective, because there's a such thing in now we've talked about it from the perspective of geobiology. We talked about we contrasted geobiology through some of this etheric physics, and we came up with some interesting contrasts and stuff like that. But we also have this thing in astrology, like how we talked about the various houses and stuff like that correspond with the notion of um Ernest Hartmann, as far as the energy changing at different times a year, the energy on the planet changing at different times a year, as well as at different times a day, being more dominant at nighttime or whatever, when you don't have all the ions in the air, stuff like that, as far as the sun being out or whatever case may be. Um, Let me see here. Let's go into astrocartography because that also ties into the energy of the planet. If anybody's I know all my astrologers out there understand that, but if anybody's ever actually, you know, got their natal chart pulled or whatever, it's three questions that they're gonna ask you: your date of birth, your time of birth, and the location, geo coordinates. Where were you born at? Because it's predicated off of you and your location on the planet, as well as it is the time of birth or whatever case may be. So let's kind of get into that a little bit. Okay, so astrological perspective, astrocartography and houses beyond the geobiological and etheric physics frameworks. Traditional and modern astrological practice also offers unique perspectives on how Earth's position and movement in relation to the celestial bodies influence life. Astrocartography and the concept of astrological houses provide distinct yet related systems of mapping these influences. Astrocartography, let's see here, mapping planetary influences on Earth. Because remember what they were saying. They were saying that the planet is affected by cosmic rays, cosmic influences, as well as its own energies, its own inherent energy or whatever. So it creates this web of energies and fields and counter fields and stuff like that or whatever. Similar to what you get when you pull somebody's natal chart. Just like how we talk about, oh, people represent patterns in your life or whatever case may be. Well, yeah, an astrologer can see your mama in your chart. If your mama, your kids, your daddy, you know what I'm saying, your husband, your wife, whoever's the people in your life, an astrologer, that those people show up in your chart. So it's a very similar thing. So that's why we're kind of going into this and kind of making that contrast. And as you can see, a lot of the stuff that it appears to be so pseudo. Yeah, it's pseudo because you're dealing with general relativity and quantum mechanics. But if you step over into more ether-based physics or whatever case may be, it's a little bit more interconnected universe that you step into. Okay, so let's see here. Let's keep going. Okay, let's see here. Uh, okay, astrocartography. Okay. Okay, mapping planetary influence on Earth. Astrocartography, also known as location astrology, is a specialized branch of astrology that combines astrological principles with cartography, the science of map making. Developed by astrologer Jim Lewis in the 1970s, its fundamental idea is that the positions of celestial bodies at the time of a person's birth influence their life experiences differently across various geographic locations on Earth. To create a astromap, a person's astrological birth chart requiring precise birth time and geographical location, is overlaid on a world map. This map then displays vertical lines and zones corresponding to the positions of specific planets at the moment of birth. Each planet symbolizes different energies and themes. I think we talk a lot about themes in this material. For example, Venus is associated with love and beauty, Mars with ambition and energy, Jupiter with luck and growth, Pluto with deep transformation. Like how we talking about, we're going through Pluto and Aquarius right now. When these planetary energies intersect with particular geographic locations, they are believed to influence various aspects of life experienced there, including personal growth, relationships, and careers. So again, you have an instance of the location that a person is in being influencing some aspect of their life. You see what I'm saying? Now, previously we was talking about their health. You see what I'm saying? That was a thing. That's what we were talking about before that. But this kind of goes into the whole thing about it affects different aspects of their life. You see what I'm saying? Um, yeah, it's even a thing. In I know my teacher was explaining it to me before that, how you can have one transit or whatever case may be. Let's say like you're in New York or something like that, and it's a particular transit that's happening while you're in New York in a particular latitude or whatever case may be. If you want to experience that transit again or whatever case may be, you can switch latitudes and everything like that, and you still get to stay in the energy of that transit or whatever case may be. You see what I'm saying? So the locations actually matter. The locations actually affect the energy. You see what I'm saying? It's a difference between, let's say, like a truck driver's chart in a person who's stationary's chart, because he keeps moving through various different locations. He keeps moving. His chart is different or whatever case may be, because he's constantly moving through different locations. Um, Let me see. Uh, Astrological houses, diurnal and nocturnal motion as basis in Western astrology. All of that's why I say um, you know, astrology would not be possible if the earth was flat, because as you can see, diurnal nocturnal, that's the earth turning. You see what I'm saying? So some of your predictions and stuff is coming from the fact that the earth is turning and spinning. So so you're very acquainted with, how the earth moves and how it works. Okay, so diurnal and nocturnal motion as basis in Western astrology. The zodiac circle is divided into 12 sections known as houses. Each house is typically 30 degrees, representing 1/12 of a 360-degree circle. It corresponds to a different area of life, from personality and appearance to relationship and career. The basis for Western astrological chart, and thus the houses, is the 24-hour cycle of day and night, referred to as the night nightstimeron. This concept incorporates the duality of diurnal day and nocturnal night energies. Okay, diurnal energies are associated with the quality of day, masculinity, and the solar principle. They are active, direct, and expressive. The sun and Jupiter are considered diurnal luminaries. Planets' nocturnal energies relate to the quality of night, femininity, and the lunar principle. They are responsive, indirect, and impressive. The moon and Venus are considered nocturnal. So they have, he talks about the different planets associated, the different energies associated with the various houses, and how that represents different times of day. You see what I'm saying? Same thing that they were talking about. But the only thing about it, what they were talking about, like I said, they were talking about this stuff having a bearing on your health, and you see what I'm saying? They were in geobiology, um, in this particular breakdown of it, we were talking more about a health thing. But as we can see with astrology, it's still dealing with your location and your relationship to the planet, as far as your location on the planet or whatever case may be. But it's dealing with events in your life or whatever case may be. So let's see here. When contrasting these astrological perspectives with Ernst Hartmann's geobiology and the ether-based physics of Keely and Tesla, several points of commonality and divergence emerge. Earth as an energetic influence, all framework in their unique ways acknowledge that the Earth is not merely a passive physical body, but an active energetic entity that influences life on its surface. Hartmann grids are Earth-based radiation. Astrological houses are based on Earth's rotation. Astrocartography maps planetary influences on Earth's geography, and etheric physics posit Earth as a component in a larger energetic system. Um, Mapping unseen influences. So, see, in general, see, that's the trick in words. In general, they're talking about, well, you're mapping unseen influences or whatever. But just a minute ago, we were just reading about Tesla's version of this, and see Tesla's dealing with electricity, and electricity is more measurable. Or so it's not unseen forces no more. You see what I'm saying? So these are the games that they play when they want to call somebody pseudo. They can say, oh, these unseen forces, but you see what I'm saying? Mapping unseen influences. Each discipline attempts to map and describe unseen forces or patterns that affect human experience. Hartman's Hartman map specific Hartmann maps specific grid lines. Astrocartography maps planetary lines, and astrological houses delineate areas of life influenced by celestial positions relative to Earth's rotation. Favorable, unfavorable zones, times all suggest that certain locations or times can be more favorable or unfavorable for specific outcomes. Geopathic stress zones are deemed harmful, while astrocartography identifies locations conducive to career, success, or love. Astrological houses indicate areas of life where planetary energies are expressed. Let's see here. See if there's anything that I missed. No, I think that's pretty much it. Just wanted to contrast that, um, and I think that was an interesting little piece. It lagged on a little bit longer than I thought, or what have you, but it's a good addition to our conversation about the ether and everything like that, because I know we've been talking about fields and the relationships with people and everything like that. And we've been talking about, even the relationships between groups of people and everything like that. But this brings something a little bit different to the forefront. Um, our relationship, with the planet, our location on the planet, our the energetic quality of the place that we're in, or whatever case may be. Um, Disharmony in the earth's energy, and this brings something, even the conversation that we were having a little bit earlier in regards to CERN and everything like that. um Whatever they're doing, it must be affecting it has to be affecting the energy grid, or the system of energy on the rest of the planet. It has to be. You see what I'm saying? And that may be an explanation for some of the more adverse weather patterns that we may be having. But yeah, that's all I got. I ain't trying to drag it out to an hour 30 minutes, but yeah, just kind of going over that. I appreciate y'all for checking me out. Like what you've been hearing, like and subscribe. I know that was one of my lengthier ones here. Like I told you, I was gonna get kind of wordy and nerdy and stuff like that, but I think if you could sit through the whole video, I think that was a few decent takeaways from that. Um, yeah, catch y'all on the next one. Appreciate y'all checking me out. Peace and blessings. Peace.